نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد بسم الله. Surah Munafiqun. Surah Munafiqun, also a Madani Surah, 11 ayahs and 2 rukuts, and it means hypocrites. The name comes from the first ayah where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about hypocrites, munafiqeen, and even in the rest of the surah, as it describes the hostile attitude of hypocrites toward Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and Muslims. So what is the connection of Surah Munafiqun with the previous surah, Surah Al-Jum'ah? Well, Surah Munafiqun is connected with Surah Al-Jum'ah in the sense that it offers a comparison between hypocrites and believers. So we learn about the attitude of believers in Surah Al-Jum'ah, and then in this one, in Surah Munafiqun, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us about hypocrites. Also, in Surah Al-Jum'ah, Jews are mentioned as a nation who completely rejected Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam by the tongue and the heart, whereas Surah Munafiqun describes hypocrites who denied Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam in the heart but proclaimed faith by the tongue. A quick synopsis of the surah. The main topic of this surah is to describe characteristics of hypocrites, including lying about their faith, swearing false oaths, plotting against Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and believers. It also mentions hatred of hypocrites towards Muslims and their loathsome claim of expelling Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam believers out of Medina upon return from the battle of Bani Mustaliq. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala encouraged Muslims not to forget remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the midst of worldly possessions and pleasures. And finally, the surah emphasizes not to delay spending the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, since there is no reprieve available at the time of death. In terms of the virtues of this surah, so it comes in narration Sahih Muslim, أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم كان يقرأ في صلاة الجمعة سورة الجمعة والمنافقين. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam used to recite in Jummah prayer surahs Al-Jum'ah and Al-Munafiqun. Before we begin Tafseer of Surah Munafiqun, let's understand some background in which the surah was revealed. So Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam received the news that leader of Banu Mustaliq is preparing a campaign against Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. His name was Harith bin Dirar. And Harith bin Dirar was actually father of Juwayriyah radhiyallahu anha, who later became one of the Ummahatul Mu'mineen. And her father also accepted Islam. So Harith bin Dirar also became a Muslim later in life. So this incident of Battle of Banu Mustaliq, Ghazwatul Banu Mustaliq, also known as Ghazwatul Muraisi, happened in either 5th Hijrah or 6th Hijrah. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam gathered a group of Muslims and went to fight with Harith bin Dirar and his people. And many hypocrites also joined in this fight in the hopes of getting ghanima. They were quite sure of Muslims' victory, so they joined Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam in the hopes that they will get the spoils, the ghanima. A standoff happened near a well-named Muraisi. That's why it's also called the Ghazwat al-Muraisi. And when the fight began and arrows were shot across the two armies, many men of Banu Mustaliq were killed and others fled away. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave victory to Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Some men and women were captured as slaves, and Muslims got hold of ghanima from this war. So while Muslims were still at the well of Muraisi, a quarrel started between Muhajirin and Ansar. The dispute grew bigger and both sides called their tribes for support. A fight was imminent when Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam learned about the situation, and he immediately went to the scene and diffused the matter. At that point, Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam expressed his dislike for the slogan of Jahiliyyah, which was to cooperate based on one's tribe or nationality instead of justice. As it comes in Bukhari, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, "Ma balu da'wa ahli jahiliyyah." What is wrong with the people as they are calling this call of the period of ignorance? And another narration, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, "Da'uha fa innaha muntinatun." Leave it, meaning leave the slogan of Jahiliyyah, for it is something disgusting. When Abdullah bin Ubay learned about this dispute, he provoked Ansar against Muhajirin by saying, you have brought all this on yourselves. You have let them settle in your land and share your wealth and property. They are fed on your breads until they became strong, and now they rival you. By Allah, when we go back to Medina, the most honorable of the inhabitants of Medina shall drive out the meanest of them from there. So he started to instigate a fight, and he took the opportunity of this dispute to incite Ansar so that they could develop hatred against Muhajirin. And towards the end of what he said, he referred to Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam as the meanest of them, and himself and his tribe to be the most honorable. In his gathering, while he was saying all these words to his hypocrite team, a companion was there, a young companion by the name of Zayd bin Arqam. He went to Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. He listened to all this and then took this news to Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and shared what he had said. Upon hearing this news, the color of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam blessed face changed. He mounted on a Sheikh Kamil Quswa and announced his decision to return to Medina immediately. Umar was present at the moment. He said, "O Allah's Messenger, order Abbad bin Bishr to kill Abdullah bin Ubay." But Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam replied, فَكَيْفَ إِذَا تَحَدَّثَ النَّاسُ يَا عُمَرُ أَنَّ مُحَمَّدًا يَقْتُلُ أَصْحَابَهُ لَا وَلَكِنْ نَادِي يَا عُمَرُ الرَّحِيمِ. What if people started saying that Muhammad kills his companion? Omar, no. However, order the people to start the journey back to Medina. So Prophet ﷺ abruptly left for Medina, and during the journey, Nabi ﷺ asked Abdullah bin Ubay whether he had indeed made such statements. So he was a munafiq. He took a falsehood and called Zayd bin Arqam a liar. At that moment, Nabi ﷺ accepted his excuse, but later on, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the verses of Surah Al-Munafiqun in favor of Zayd bin Arqam. Narrated by Zayd bin Arqam in Bukhari, Nabi ﷺ called him and recited Surah Al-Munafiqun and said, Inna Allah qad saddaqa ya Zayd. O Zayd, indeed Allah confirmed your statement. Recall also that Jawir anha was among the prisoners of the Battle of Muraysiyah and became a slave girl of Thabit bin Qais after distribution of Ghanima. To set herself free, she made a contract of kitaba with her master. So kitaba is a type of agreement where a slave agrees upon a particular amount to the master, that as soon as he or she can give that amount to the master, he or she will be set free. So she agreed upon a very large amount of money for her kitaba, which she could not pay herself. So she asked Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam for help. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam agreed to pay her kitaba and also expressed the intent to marry her. When companions learned about Jabir becoming a blessed wife for Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, they set free all slave girls related to her. So this led to release of about 100 women, and her father, Harith bin Durar, also embraced Islam at that time. So what do we learn from this incident that happened at Muraisi? Well, there's a very important lesson for us. It teaches us about the criteria of Islam to help others and to receive help. Islam sets the basis of mutual cooperation on justice and equity, and denounces support of falsehood based on race, ethnicity, regional affiliation, and even blood relations. As it comes in Surah Ma'idah, وَتَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْبِرِّ وَالتَّقْوَى وَلَا تَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْإِثْمِ وَالْعُدْوَانِ, and cooperate in righteousness and piety, but do not cooperate in sin and aggression, and fear Allah. Indeed, Allah is severe in penalty. Also, it comes in narration narrated by Anas bin Malik in Bukhari. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, "Unsur akhaka zaliman aw mazluman." قالوا يا رسول الله هذا ننصره مظلوما فكيف ننصره ظالما قال تأخذ فوق يديه. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, "Help your brother whether he is an oppressor or he is an oppressed one." People asked, "O Allah's Messenger, it is all right to help him if he's oppressed. But how should we help him if he's an oppressor? Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, by preventing him from oppressing others. So with this background, let's start the surah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إذا جاءك المنافقون قالوا نشهد إنك لرسول الله والله يعلم إنك لرسوله والله يشهد إن المنافقين لكاذبون. When the hypocrites come to you, O Muhammad, they say, we testify that you are messenger of Allah, and Allah knows that you are his messenger, and Allah testifies that hypocrites are liars. اتخذوا أيمانهم جنة فصدوا عن سبيل الله إنهم ساء ما كانوا يعملون. They have taken their oath as a cover, so they averted people from the way of Allah. Indeed, it was evil that they are doing. Indeed, it was evil that they were doing. So aymanahum means their oaths, and junna means cover. In this context, waqayatan li'anfusihim wa amwalihim, protection for themselves and their wealth. So hypocrites protected themselves from Muslims when they falsely swear of their faith and belief, because they even imitated the outward behavior. And because of their saying of the kalima, Muslims could not really fight against them. They had to accept the outward projection that these munafiqun were doing, which was their believing verbally, but in their heart there was disbelief. ذلك بأنهم آمنوا ثم كفروا فطبع على قلوبهم فهم لا يفقهون. That is because they believed and then they disbelieved, so their hearts were sealed over and they do not understand. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here tells us why hypocrites could not really get that strong faith in their hearts. And that is because they accepted Islam initially, but then they reverted back to disbelief. So if there is persistence on a sin, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes away the opportunity to even get guidance at that point. And that is the message here. So these hypocrites, they continue to flip-flop between Iman and Kufr to the point where they lost the ability to get guidance. وَإِذَا رَأَيْتَهُمْ تُعْجِبُكَ أَجْسَامُهُمْ وَإِنْ يَقُولُوا تَسْمَعْ لِقَوْلِهِمْ كأنهم خشب مسندة يحسبون كل صيحة عليهم هم العدو فاحذرهم قاتلهم الله أن يؤفكون. And when you see them, their forms please you, and if they speak, you listen to their speech. They are as if they were pieces of wood propped up. They think that every shout is against them. They are the enemy, so beware of them. May Allah destroy them. How deluded are they? Khushubun means wood, and musannada means rested against something. So literally, khushubun musannada means wood that is rested against something. And the analogy is that a piece of wood or lumber that is useful is the one which is used in building the wall or the roof of the house. But wood that is useless, does not have strength or is bent or has any other defect, such wood is not used in construction. Even if it has a very good finishing on the outside, it looks polished and expensive. Instead, it is left on the ground or put aside against the wall. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala compares hypocrites to such useless piece of wood. They have a graceful outward appearance. They are eloquent in speech, so people listen to them. However, from inside, they are weak and feeble, coward and fearful, devoid of faith and any goodness. So khushubun musannada means ajsamun bila ahlamin, bodies without strength. And the weakness and hollowness of hypocrites is apparent when any unpleasant incident occurs and they get extremely concerned and fearful that their facade may get exposed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes this behavior in Surah Ahzab, ayat number 19. فَإِذَا جَاءَ الْخَوْفُ رَأَيْتَهُمْ يَنْظُرُونَ إِلَيْكَ تَدُورُ أَعْيُنُهُمْ كَالَّذِي يُغْشَى عَلَيْهِ مِنَ الْمَوْتِ. And when fear comes, you see them looking at you, their eyes revolving like one being overcome by death. So let's quickly review ayahs 1 to 4. Persistence in sinning seals the heart from accepting guidance. There's warning against being deceived by outward grooming and eloquence of tongue. And a hypocritical life is full of fear and apprehension of being exposed. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم